When the smile vanished forever, the unseen pain behind Yumenglong's last moments. The world knew Yumenglong as the man with the softest smile and the kindest eyes, a soul whose charm could light up a room, a set, or a screen. But behind that disarming smile was a quiet storm, a pain unseen, a loneliness unheard. The day his light went out, it didn't just mark the end of a brilliant career. It marked the silence of a voice that once brought life, laughter, and love to millions across the world. His death wasn't just shocking, it was devastating, leaving behind an emptiness that words struggled to fill. Yumenglong had built a career out of sincerity. From the early days of humble beginnings to the heights of stardom, his story was one of resilience and grace. He wasn't just an actor. He was a storyteller, a dreamer, and a giver. Fans often spoke about how he had this rare gift of making you believe in goodness again, even if just for the span of a scene. But fame, as always, is a double-edged sword. It gives and it takes, it builds and it breaks. For you, the smile the world adored became both his greatest strength and his most painful mask. In the weeks before his death, there were glimpses, faint, almost invisible, of something shifting. He appeared on screen, graceful as ever, his expression still tender, his voice still calm. But behind that serenity, those who looked closely could see a trace of exhaustion in his eyes, a heaviness that didn't belong there. Friends spoke of late-night calls that ended in silence, of messages left unanswered, of an emptiness that seemed to consume him even when surrounded by people who loved him. He had spoken in interviews about pressure, not just from the industry, but from himself. Perfection, he once said, is a cage with gold bars. The public adored the flawless Yumenglong, the one who smiled perfectly, spoke gently, and always seemed composed. But that perfect image was hard to sustain. Every rumor, every criticism, every whisper on social media dug a little deeper into his heart. He wanted to please everyone, fans, directors, friends, the world. But in the process, he forgot how to be gentle with himself. Those who knew him best said he was the kind of person who never wanted to burden others with his sadness. He laughed when he was in pain, smiled when he was breaking, and comforted others when he needed comfort himself. He was sunshine to everyone, one close friend said, but no one realized the sun was burning itself to keep us warm. The night before his passing, the city was quiet. According to reports, Yu had spent the evening alone in his apartment. His phone history showed no outgoing calls. There were messages, half-written, unsent. Words like, "I'm sorry," "I tried," "Thank you," scattered like fragments of a final goodbye. Neighbors said they heard music playing softly through his window, a song he'd once performed during concert, one about love, loss, and finding peace. When the music stopped, so did he. The mourning that followed broke the hearts of millions. News outlets hesitated at first, unwilling to believe that someone so full of life, so deeply loved, could be gone so suddenly. Fans flooded social media with disbelief. "It can't be true," they wrote. "He was just live yesterday." But as confirmation came, shock gave way to heartbreak. Across Asia, hashtags bearing his name trended in every language. Photos of his smiling face filled timelines. Candle emojis, broken hearts, and teardrop icons became the language of grief. His funeral was a river of white flowers and silent tears. Fans gathered outside the hall, holding photos of him, their voices trembling as they whispered prayers. Some cried openly, others simply stood in stunned silence, clutching posters and letters they had never been able to give him. Inside, his close friends and family sat in a small circle, unable to comprehend the weight of what had been lost. His mother was seen holding onto his framed photograph, her hand trembling as she traced the edges of his smile. There are moments in life when silence becomes the loudest thing in the world, and Yumenglong's silence was deafening. The entertainment world mourned deeply. Co-stars shared tributes filled with love and disbelief. Directors remembered his humility, how he would bow to every crew member, no matter their role. Fans recalled how he stayed late after fan meets, refusing to leave until he had signed every autograph. That was who he was, patient, kind, and deeply human. But behind the tributes lay a haunting question. Why? Why would someone so loved, so talented, and so seemingly happy end his story this way? The answer, perhaps, lies in the unseen pain that hides behind the curtains of fame. In an industry that glorifies perfection, vulnerability often becomes a secret sin. The more he smiled, the more the world assumed he was fine. But pain has a way of hiding beneath beauty, a quiet ache behind the sparkle of the spotlight. His passing opened conversations about mental health, pressure, and the cost of fame. Fans began sharing their own struggles, their own stories of pretending to be okay when they weren't. In a tragic way, YUMENGLONG's death became a mirror, reflecting the silent battles so many face behind closed doors. The man who once gave comfort to others, even in death, became a symbol of the importance of reaching out, of speaking, of listening. In the days that followed, countless tributes emerged, songs, art, letters, and short films inspired by his life. His old performances gained millions of new views. Fans wrote messages beneath his videos. "You are still here. We will never forget you. Your smile lives on." And perhaps in some way he does live on, not just in memory, but in the lessons he left behind. They say time heals, but for those who loved him, time only softens the edges of the pain. It never truly erases it. His absence lingers in the smallest things, a song on the radio, a photo scrolling past, a clip of him laughing. Each memory brings both warmth and ache. Those who visited his gravesite spoke of how peaceful he looked, finally free from the pressures that had shadowed his final days. Flowers covered the ground, candles burned through the night, and messages written in trembling handwriting were tucked beneath the bouquets. "You didn't fail us. You did enough. Rest, our angel." There's a cruel irony in how the world can love someone so much, yet never truly see their pain until it's too late. The smile that once lit up millions of hearts was the same smile that hid 1,000 unspoken cries. The man who gave light to others couldn't find enough of it for himself. And that is the tragedy that makes his story so hauntingly beautiful, because even in his final moments, there was grace, there was love, and there was quiet dignity. YUMENGLONG's legacy is not just in his films or his music. It's in the hearts he touched, the kindness he showed, and the reminder he left behind. That even the brightest stars can burn silently before they fade. His story teaches the world that sometimes the people who smile the most are the ones who need the most love. Even now, months after his passing, his name echoes like a soft melody through the hearts of those who adored him. Fans still light candles every year, still post messages, still replay his old videos to feel close to him again. They remember the way he laughed, the way he waved to fans, the way his eyes softened when he talked about his dreams. And in that remembering, they keep him alive. The world had seen YUMENGLONG as the perfect picture of grace, a face that radiated calm and a presence that could soothe even the coldest hearts. But what no one saw was the quiet storm brewing behind those serene eyes. His smile, that beautiful, gentle curve that became his trademark, wasn't just a sign of happiness, it was armor. Every time he smiled, he was hiding something the world would never guess. His exhaustion, his loneliness, his battle to stay strong when his soul was crumbling inside. In the days leading up to his passing, those closest to him noticed the smallest changes, changes only visible to those who truly paid attention. His laughter became shorter, quieter, almost forced. His once bright eyes seemed to wander off even in the middle of conversations, as if he was searching for something unseen, something missing. During his last public event, cameras captured him waving gently to fans, his smile as dazzling as ever. But a slow-motion replay of that moment, seen later by millions online, revealed the truth. The corners of his eyes didn't lift. His smile was there, but his light wasn't. On set, crew members whispered that he seemed distant. Between takes, he would sit quietly in a corner, scrolling through his phone but not really seeing the screen. When asked if he was okay, he would nod and say softly, "I'm fine. Just tired." It was a lie, a polite, practiced one. But it was the kind of lie people tell when they've grown, used to hiding their pain. He didn't want pity. He didn't want attention. He wanted peace, the kind that fame could never offer him. One of his close friends later recalled a haunting conversation. You had asked him, "Do you ever feel like you're living for everyone else but yourself?" His friend had laughed it off at the time, thinking it was just fatigue from filming. But now, those words echo like a chilling prophecy. He had been asking for help in the quietest way possible, but no one knew how to listen. The night before his death, YUMENGLONG reportedly spent hours staring out his apartment window. It was raining, that kind of soft, endless rain that makes the world look blurred and heavy. A delivery man who dropped off a package said he saw him standing by the glass, motionless, the light from inside casting a pale glow around him. He looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. No one knew that it was the calm before the storm. His home was neat and spotless, the kind of organized space that reflects someone trying to keep control. But on his desk, beside a small vase of wilted lilies, lay his notebook. On the last page, a line written in shaky handwriting read, "Sometimes silence is louder than words." It wasn't a farewell note, but it felt like one, the kind of thought a tired soul leaves behind when it has said all it can say. When the world woke up to the news the next morning, disbelief turned into heartbreak. Crowds gathered outside his home, some holding candles, others standing in tears. The air was heavy with grief. Reporters struggled to find words, and social media turned into a sea of sorrow. His name trended globally for days. People rewatched his interviews, looking for clues, for signs they might have missed. He looked fine, some said. He smiled, others insisted. But behind that smile had been years of unspoken battles. One of his co-stars broke down in an interview, saying he was always the one who comforted others. He'd bring coffee for the staff, crack little jokes, remind everyone to rest. But none of us realized he was the one who needed saving. That statement struck a chord worldwide. It became a mirror for millions who knew what it felt like to wear a smile just to survive. Fans shared their memories, handwritten letters he'd responded to, selfies from fan meets, voice recordings where he'd said, "Take care of yourself, okay?" And suddenly, those simple words carried a haunting weight. The man who told everyone else to care for themselves had forgotten to care for his own heart. At his memorial, thousands lined the streets holding white roses. A soft piano piece played in the background, a song he'd composed years earlier called "Light in the Quiet." Its lyrics, once poetic and sweet, now felt prophetic. "If one day I disappear into the stars, don't cry for me, just remember I was here." As the music filled the air, the crowd fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. It was as if the whole world paused to honor the man who had given them so much joy. Some fans fainted from grief. Others just wept quietly, clutching his photo to their chest. A young girl was seen kneeling at the front of the hall, whispering, "You promised to smile again." The entertainment world has always been glamorous on the outside, but it hides an unbearable weight behind the lights. For YUMENGLONG, that weight became too heavy. Between relentless schedules, constant public scrutiny, and the pressure to always appear perfect, he lost sight of himself. Behind the scenes, he had been struggling with insomnia, anxiety, and a growing sense of isolation. Every applause felt emptier. Every compliment felt heavier. Fame, instead of lifting him, began to drown him. And yet, even through the pain, he continued to give. That was his nature, to give love even when his own heart was breaking. During his last recorded message to fans, he said something that now feels chillingly symbolic. "If you ever feel like the world is too heavy, just look at the sky. There's always light somewhere." He didn't know those words would become his final gift, a message that fans around the world now hold onto like a sacred promise. After his passing, people began to see him differently. The laughter, the performances, the songs, all carried a deeper meaning now. They were pieces of a puzzle revealing the quiet heartbreak behind the beauty. Documentaries were made, essays written, fan memorials built in his honor. In Beijing, an artist painted a massive mural of him, his eyes looking toward the sky, his famous smile captured forever in color. Beneath it, the words read, "The smile that never dies." Even in death, Yumenglong continues to touch lives. His story became a beacon for awareness, a reminder that behind every smiling face could be a silent battle. Mental health foundations began campaigns in his name, encouraging people to speak, to reach out, to truly listen. It's heartbreaking to think that it took his loss for such conversations to begin, but perhaps in some way that was his final act of kindness, to turn his pain into a reason for others to heal. In the end, Yumenglong's legacy isn't defined by how he died, but by how deeply he lived, how he loved, how he gave, how he inspired. His smile may have vanished forever, but the warmth it left behind still lingers like sunlight after a storm. Fans still light candles, still write letters, still whisper his name in the quiet hours of the night. And somewhere beyond the noise of the world, one can only hope that Yumenglong has finally found peace, free from the expectations, free from the pain, surrounded by the light he gave so freely to everyone else. Because the truth behind his last moments isn't just sadness. It's a reminder of humanity, of fragility, and of love that continues to live even when the person is gone. The smile that vanished forever will never be forgotten. It lives on in every heart he touched, in every tear shed for him, and in every act of kindness inspired by his memory. Yumenglong,